So while we wait for him, please make your way to your seats and let's get the next session off the ground. Okay, so he's here. Please, let's put our hands together for Mr. Edwards Jr., the Director General, Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa. Thank you very much. He is ably represented by Mr. Muazu Umar, Director of Policy and Research. Thank you.
A very good afternoon to everyone. Let me start by appreciating the invitation extended to us to be here. My name is Muazu Umar. I'm the Director of Policy and Research at the Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money in South Africa. And happily, I'm a Nigerian, so I'm glad to be home. I was so happy when my Director General said I should go on representing here. Now, let me start by appreciating the high dignitaries here present. I know we are settling down, and I know that the hall is set to say a few things because I have to summarize the presentation. As an opener, I want to start by reminding us about some facts. I want to remind us about some facts about money in Nigeria based on the experience of Nigeria. About 3 facts. Even if this is the only thing I say and leave here, I think some people will get thinking. Now, the first fact is that about money in Nigeria, based on my experience, I've been a public servant in Nigeria for many years before I left 16, 17 years ago. But the first fact that I want to mention, which is, and in the economy is dangerous for a country. That is a fact. The second fact is that too much money in the financial system, in the economy, is also dangerous for a country. But the other fact is that too much money in an economy that is not backed by production of goods or services kills the economy. Fact is that too much money in the hands of a few people also brings about unrest and social injustice. Another fact about Nigeria is that too much money in the hands of a few that do not use the money for public good also destroys the country, as we have seen with regard to all the criminality, whether it is banditry, terrorism, and the rest of that. The foundation I'm laying here is that everything we are discussing about fiscal responsibility is about where does money go. That's what we are talking about. The revenue that is being mobilized, where does it go? Does it go to individuals, too much to too little people, or does it go for public good, go for production? So whenever you are thinking of fiscal responsibility, think about the distribution of money. Is money justifiably distributed for public good? Whether it is production or to help the poor or to lift the poor out of poverty. Because everything about fiscal transparency is about the justice of distributing wealth. That's very important to keep in mind. And that's why when I hear many people speaking about justice and fairness, I just want to bring it home. That's what it means in all of this. So I bring to you all the warm greetings of the Director General of JAVA, Mr. Edwin W. Harris, who I'm representing here, who indeed expressed his, and the theme of And the theme of this conference is critical to the work we do as the guardian or the watchdog of financial crime in West Africa, when it comes to financial in Nigeria and where Nigeria stands. So this conference comes at a pivotal moment. Nigeria stands at a crossroads. Nigeria is endowed with enormous economic potential, nations of fiscal integrity. As the largest economy, one of the largest economy now in Africa, if you go by the devaluation of the Naira, and a vital pillar of West Africa's stability. Nigeria's successes or setbacks in fiscal governance will reverberate far beyond the shores of Nigeria. It is then important that Nigeria ensures alignment not only with its integrity responsibility within the country, but also its role as a leader in West Africa and indeed in Africa, and contributing to global leadership around the world. So it is important. So this forum is timely and commendable. It recognizes that fiscal governance is a shared responsibility across all branches of government, that is legislative oversight, judicial enforcement, executive reforms, and everything else that comes together as one government. As it has been said this morning, fiscal governance is the bedrock upon which trust in government, economic stability, and national development is built. So it's important we do this. Now let me go to global trends and where Nigeria is already on the right track, but we need to accelerate development. The first thing to recognize is that we are dealing with macroeconomic pressures and debt sustainability issues around the world, but particularly around Africa and particularly in West Africa. We are all complaining about the debt burden that all of us have to bear and our children have to bear into the future. So it is important in trying to enhance macroeconomic stability and in trying to enhance financial integrity and fiscal transparency, we recognize that the more revenue we manage successfully to deliver services, the less burden we are going to have financially in terms of debt. That is very important because the headwinds, particularly what we are seeing in terms of the global rivalry, the geopolitics not just globally, but also within Africa and West Africa. We know what is going on with Mali, we know what is going on with Niger, we know what is going on with Burkina Faso, and we know the headwinds, and we know the new alliances that are emanating in this region. Remember that these three countries that have left the economic community of West African states, they constitute 51% of the land area of West Africa. 51%. In other words, half of ECOWAS has left ECOWAS in terms of fiscal space. And they have the potential, if you look at solar energy, if you look at other variables, they have the land to accommodate industries from Nigeria and all other places in West Africa. That means that we are losing substantial market, not only in terms of people, but also in terms of our ability to extend our reach as a country. So it's important to take this into consideration whenever you are dealing with fiscal transparency. The second issue I want to highlight is what has been highlighted throughout this morning, the issue of digital transformation in public finance. But I think it's important in public financial management, we look at the whole chain, because most of the time we focus so much about the utilization of funds. No, it's very important that we take the whole finance management. That is to say, from the money itself, the source of the money, How do we deepen and widen the source? How do we ensure the integrity of the source? How do we ensure the integrity of the transmission of the funds? How do we ensure the integrity of the custody? Ensure accountability in the implementation of the budget? How do we ensure that those who misuse the process are punished? As you know, between anything 18% to 40 to 50% of GDP in Africa by different countries is being used for public procurement. So in trying to address the issue of fiscal transparency, you must never shy away from ensuring that public procurement becomes a pillar in that process. Because we all know what is going on when it comes to public procurement. So importantly, you must focus on public procurement, make it transparent, less people involving, and ensuring that there is equity in the way we can detect fraud in public procurement. And to this end, JAVA, we are producing a comprehensive handbook that will guide our countries on how to ensure that financial crime, including fraud, are protected and prevented within the public procurement system. The third issue I want to put to your attention is beneficial ownership transparency. When we talk about beneficial ownership transparency, we cannot be able to mobilize funding until we know who are the owners of registered companies and concerns, who are the natural owners. That is a critical and adequate mobilization of revenue and ensuring that that revenue is used for good. So, beneficial ownership. We must work with all the agencies of government to see that beneficial ownership data is transparent, is open, is accessible, and is valid and reliable. That is very, very important. We are working at the global level to ensure that every country in the world makes sure that there is complete and full transparency when it comes to ownership of assets, particularly registered companies. People ask me, why do we have to know the owner of a company? It's a very simple answer. The reason why we must know the owner of a company is simple. The vehicle of limited liability or public liability of a legal person was given to you by government. It is the government that guarantees a public liability company, taking away liability from a natural person. It is the law that provides that vehicle. Therefore, you must be held accountable as an individual. We must know the ultimate beneficial owners. If I ask you, who is the ultimate beneficial owner of this hotel? The money we are spending for this conference to benefit from it. I'm sure you will rush to tell me it's Tony Elimelu. Isn't it? He will be one of those who are going to benefit from this. So if we do not know who are the natural owners of public concerns or private concerns, then we are in trouble. Because any criminal can get in there, and then anybody can just have a sense of conflict of interest. You are in government and everything goes to your company. So this is very important. It's critical as a reform area for Nigeria. And already the Corporate Affairs Commission has done a lot. It has achieved about 70% of registration of companies. They listed over 176,000 companies that are not active. This is work in progress, and we commend this achievement. The other element is international cooperation and asset recovery. Nigeria must be part of the global world. Nigeria is a leader, and Nigeria must rise up its responsibilities. Because one of the issues in Nigeria is that Nigeria is so self-content that it does not see the leadership of the world, the global institutions, as an important element for its development. No, there is no nation that, in fact, it's only Switzerland, today I can say, is a leader economically that is not part of global governance. But there is no other country that has been able to achieve that. So it's important for Nigeria and Nigerian professionals and institutions and government agencies to rise to the occasion to be part of global governance. Join all of those institutions that will make the Nigerian voice heard on the table. We sit on the table on behalf of Nigeria, on behalf of more than 17 countries. But we need Nigeria to sit there for itself, for what Nigeria is. So international cooperation, asset recovery is important. Now, one of the issues we have with asset recovery in Nigeria is the transparency of management. So I will expect that the Public Accounts Committee should take interest in how public institutions are recovering assets, and how public institutions are managing those assets, and how public institutions are accounting for those assets. I will tell you, I was here in Nigeria and I worked in one of the enforcement agencies. I had a situation where we recovered over 200 vehicles from one person, and those vehicles were left to rotting for more than 10 years. But when he went to court, up judgment against us, and now we had to hand over those vehicles. But there was nothing to hand over because the vehicles are rotten, they were not properly managed, and everything else. Imagine if we had agreed to sell those vehicles at that time and put the money in a fixed account, how much would have been realized if everything has been forfeited to government. So you must take in asset recovery, working with the Attorney General of the Federation to ensure that that critical area of finance is actually well managed and governed. This is an important element. The other element has to do with the issue of oversight. I know this is what you do every day, but what are you oversighting? Are you oversighting failure or success? So you have to ask yourself, because what is oversight? Now, one of the things I complain about, and I must say it here, is that in Nigeria, you will discover that in most of our communications, public communications, we hardly inform people of data. Data. You must ensure that data becomes an instrument of accountability, because we do forget that people are listening to us. When if you tell me we have done many roads, how many roads have you done? Where did you do them? At what price did you do them? Who can go there and verify? So we need verifiable communication in whatever we do. Let us make data central to our communication. Whenever we come out and face the public and tell them we've done X, Y, Z, let us have the data that people can go and verify. And let us have public verification instruments that civil society can take note of and go and verify. So, let me say that there are 4 key things that are important if you really want to establish public space. The civic space is expanded and people can demand for accountability. Without the citizen demanding for accountability, me and you will go to sleep. Me and you will divert those funds. It is natural for a human being to do. So, public accountability, and this should extend to the community level, to the local government level, to the state level, to the federal level, where the citizens are deliberately and actively organized to demand for accountability. We are people who have honor in society, are meant to oversee projects and have parallel reports, where the civil society will have a parallel report